Hi, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. My name is Gabby, and this presentation was also made by Bennett and Mohammed. Our presentation is based off the 2021 Eleanor Clarke Slagle lecture titled Working with Marginalized Populations. This lecture was given by Sharon A. Gutman, and I just wanted to start off with a quote that she talks about in her lecture. It says, "If it sounds like the cards are stacked against them, it's because they are." I wanted to start off our presentation with this because it's something that stood out to me within her lecture. I like how blatantly she emphasized we know that the cards are stacked against marginalized populations, but it's one thing to notice and another thing to take action and make positive change. So just a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about today. The marginalized population that she talks mostly about is homeless adults with mental illness and how this stems from unsafe childhoods, such as unsafe homes, displaced children, poverty, chaotic households that typically lead to the onset of adult mental illness and gaps in education and learning activities needed for daily living. Again, I just put the quote there, and then her lectureship provided a platform for her to spread education on how her work that she did with this population was important and how the OT practitioners did make a difference working with a transitional population. So life skills for women who experience domestic violence. This was one of the categories of homeless adults with mental illness. And in her lecture, she states 5 million women experience domestic violence annually in the United States. 85% of those women experience mental health disabilities, and 50 of those are homeless. So, some interventions that she provided to these women through her life skills program, which she provided in a shelter setting, are safety planning, drug and alcohol education, money management, hygiene, medication management, nutrition routines, leisure exploration, assertiveness and advocacy training, stress management, and boundary limit setting. So the housing transition for homeless adults with mental illness, this transition is a problem because it is a lot of people that are doing this transition are lacking the common knowledge of ADLs and IADLs and therefore cannot keep up with the requirements to maintain their housing. So OTs do not help with this transition yet, but a lot of our services align with the principles that we can help adults proceed through the system and receive supported housing so that they're able to develop basic skills needed to manage their physical, mental health, and function in their new apartment living lifestyle. Some common problems that cause them to lose their housing or not qualify for housing are home management skills, being able to take care of their home, hoarding, unsafe use of appliances that lead to fire and danger for other people living in the apartment complex, medication management, and budget and bill paying. So Gutman and her partner developed this program called the SMART program. SMART is an acronym for supporting many to achieve residential transition. So just like a brief description of the program. So they conducted a needs assessment over a 5-year period for this program through the transitional housing system to aid in transitioning individuals through teaching them functional skills needed for successful living and independence. So the baseline of her whole program was based off of these 6 modules, and these modules were given by occupational therapists, supported by videos. The occupational therapists had what we call facilitator manuals, and they had hands-on functional activities to practice these skills. So module 1 discussed addressing housing interview process, which consists of hygiene, professionalism, social engagement, and interview questions. Module 2 was education and practice of skills needed to maintain supportive apartment living, either independently or with a roommate. So cleaning strategies, a cleaning schedule, organization of documents, meds, self-care products, food preparation, and roommate courtesy. Module 3, education and practice skills needed to live cooperatively and peacefully with neighbors and interact in a communal setting with the landlord. Examples are what it means to be a respectful neighbor, how to communicate your needs to your landlord. Module 4 is community engagement and establishing social support. So being able to explore their neighborhood and identify locations for needs such as grocery stores, laundromats, etc. Identify free community activities. Many of these mothers with domestic violence have children. So what parks can they take their kids to? What activities such as the library can they take their kids to? And learn safety skills to navigate public transportation on the urban streets. Module 5 consists solely of money management. So have them track their spending, form a budget, how to pay their bills, learn saving strategies, and learn to protect their identity from scams and theft. And then last but not least, module 6 is the health and wellness education, which consists of physical health, sleep hygiene, medical screenings to manage conditions, medication management, stress management, smoking cessation, health literacy skills, mental health recovery, and action plan. Overall, the program was a success, but a huge functional barrier that they discovered in the program was that a lot of these adults did not have the literacy skills to achieve some of these tasks. So that was something that they didn't account for in their program, and that's something if they were to redo the program that they would re-implement. So again, there was a huge success, but it did not account for adult literacy. And we found this image online, and please take a chance and read it as it exhibits what it's like to read as an illiterate adult. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby. Hi, my name is Mohammed, and I will be presenting on our next section, functional literacy for homeless adults. The term functional literacy has been coined by Lenin Goraho and Dr. Gutman herself in 2018. Functional literacy is the ability to interpret common written materials needed to effectively carry out basic daily life skills and participate in meaningful occupation and social roles. Functional literacy is an emerging practice area in occupational therapy where occupational therapists support literacy as it directly affects clients' performance and participation in daily occupations. Functional literacy activities include money management, medications, and health management, navigation of public transportation, so much more aspects of our lives. These are all critical skills that homeless adults need to transition from shelter to supported housing, and they are involved in almost all of our ideals. Although many programs do exist to help the homeless, however, many of these programs have been divorced from literacy skills embedded within real-life daily activities that homeless adults identify as most personally meaningful. To address the gap, Lenin Goraho and Dr. Gutman herself decided to develop a functional literacy program. The functional literacy program was based on 5 essential elements. The first element was focusing on participation in daily community occupations that client identify as most important. Facilitating literacy within an occupation context instead of teaching reading skills in isolation, and helping clients generate their own problem-solving strategies for word and symbol decoding. Also, they partner with community organizations such as local bank, grocery stores, pharmacy, and transportation authorities to provide participants with opportunities to practice functional literacy skills in meaningful real-life context during therapy sessions. Allowing clients to identify the community environments in which barriers are desired, participation occur because of poor functional literacy skills and holding therapy session in those environments. The intervention design. The design of the intervention was a 2-group controlled study with a group of 23 sheltered adults with mental health illness. The study was conducted over 8-week session with twice a week session intervention addressing functional literacy skills in 6 specific areas needed for housing transition. That includes apartment living, community living, money management, medication management, health and wellness, and leisure. I will be talking about some of those. For example, in apartment living, they have to interpret household product labels such as food packages, directions, nutrition labels, cooking directions, expiration dates, and so on. In the community, they have to interpret signages in store, subways, buses, in the streets, in the pharmacy, and in the post office, and so on. So in each area, they have to use literacy skills to identify something that will help them do their occupation smoothly. The results demonstrated statistically significant difference between the intervention and the control group. The intervention group made gains in reading participation regarding performance, satisfaction, frequency, effectiveness, and level of support needed for daily life activities requiring functional literacy. Next is literacy support in a school system. Nowhere is need to address literacy more evident than the education system. According to 2015 data from National Assessment of Educational Progress, an estimate of 64% of fourth graders and 66% of eighth graders in the United States read below grade level. Low-level readers are disproportionately African American and Hispanic, and largely grow up in neighborhoods of low socioeconomic status. Illiteracy and low-level literacy are often embedded in an intergenerational cycle of poverty and residential instability. The children of illiterate and low-income and low-literate parents acquire fewer pre-literacy skills during their preschool and school years. And many children reside in low socioeconomic areas or live in shelters or foster care homes. Such children are typically have few opportunities at home to engage in literacy, and often lack of role model for literacy behaviors, and commonly do not internalize self-concepts such as readers during their early childhood years. Children in underserved communities are at significant risk for growing up with deficiencies in reading skills required for school completion, employment attainment, and independent community living. So the classroom environment where low-level readers are required to sit still at the desk and focus on worksheets and books for extended periods of time is often difficult and foreign to these children. So Dr. Gutman and Marie Arnold developed a school-based reading participation program for first and second graders attending elementary schools in an impoverished New York City area. In a pilot study, there were two groups, randomized controlled design, to determine whether 21 students reading below grade level who received occupational therapy reading intervention in addition to a traditional classroom instruction would demonstrate higher reading levels and participation than students received only classroom instruction. They provide the intervention over 10 weeks beginning in the 6th month of the school year. Each participant received 2 weekly sessions consisting of 30-minute individual sessions and 30-minute small group session with peer. These sessions supported 9 principles. The first one is learn to associate reading with positive experiences. Children can learn to integrate reading and motor activity. Children can learn integrate reading and sensory activity. Children can make reading personally meaningful, and children can learn reading skills through participation in purposeful functional activities. Children unique strength and learning styles, and children can learn emotional regulation and frustration tolerance skills, and also they can create and rehearse habits and routines. And finally, they can be helped to internalize images of themselves as readers. The results of the study were the study found statistically significant differences with large effect sizes between the intervention and control group scores on post-intervention reading assessment. The study also found that intervention group participants displayed greater reading enjoyment, increased home reading participation, and involved home literacy routines also greater agency and readers compared with the control group. And with that, I will hand it out to Bennett. Thank you.
The pediatric literacy support study showed that school-based occupational therapy practitioners can and should support literacy skills in underdeserved and at-risk populations using familiar sensory motor activities. But Dr. Gutman had a realization that intervention must also take place in the home with the children's parents or guardians if literacy activities are to be embraced and promoted by these children's caregivers. So she ran a pilot study to assess the reading participation program in a low-income community targeting parents of elementary school children reading below grade level. It equipped parents with strategies to incorporate reading participation with their children into their home routines, which increased the children's exposure to print, reinforcing academic skills at home and opportunities for positive association with literacy. Participants learned to establish times in their daily schedules for reading, identifying locations in their homes to organize and store reading materials, and experience a variety of pleasurable ways to engage in reading, including playing games, following recipes, taking walks in the neighborhood, and going to the library. Preliminary data has indicated that parents are learning to interact with their children in literacy activities in ways that parents did not understand or address previously. One of the best ways to help children succeed is to help their parents succeed. Many adults with mental illness experience gaps in their education because of illness onset in adolescence, and they are twice as likely as peers to drop out of high school. In the US, educational attainment is directly linked to employment success. Adults who have only a GED or a high school education earn approximately 50% less than those with a college degree. Adults without a GED or a high school education have a higher employment rate than all other categories of workers by approximately 50%. The ability to succeed in the worker role is directly related to one's ability to secure basic needs, appropriate healthcare, food, clothing, and housing, and social participation. Success in the worker role is also related to one's ability to live independently, secure an acceptable quality of life, and engage in activities and roles that are personally meaningful. Dr. Gutman and Schindler developed a supported education program to help adults with mental illness newly enter or return to school to complete a GED, vocational training, or community college courses. Their participants had a predominant history of homelessness and were living in temporary or supported housing. The supported education program consisted of 12 classrooms modules that focused on the skills needed to succeed in school or work. The first is exploration of training programs, certification, and work options. Second is study skills. Third is time management skills. Fourth is effective reading skills. Uh, Fifth is basic writing skills. Sixth is basic computer skills. Seventh is introductory internet skills. Eighth was functional daily life math skills. And then the rest were use of library resources, public speaking strategies, professional behavior and social skills, and stress management skills. These modules provided opportunities for participants to enhance their basic educational knowledge and practice the skills needed to succeed in post-secondary settings and job training programs. It allowed participants to practice professional behavior and social skills such as coming to class on time, comfortably interacting with instructors and peers, having confidence to speak in front of others, and independently completing homework assignments. Additionally, each participant was paired with a mentor who was an OT student who helped their mentee maintain their motivation to remain in and complete the program, apply skills learned in each module to their personal education goals, explore available educational and job training programs, complete applications for specific schools or training programs, complete financial aid forms, study for the GED or for school or job placement tests, and use customized compensatory strategies to enhance their performance at school or work. Of the 21 intervention group participants, 76% completed the program. At a 6-month follow-up, 63% had enrolled in an education program, obtained employment, or applied to a specific vocational program, and only one control group participant had enrolled in an educational program. So adults with a history of chronic homelessness have a mortality rate 3 to 4 times greater than an average adult in the US and a life expectancy of approximately 50 years. Premature aging and disability in the sheltered homes likely result from poor conditions they encounter while living on the street, including unsanitary bathing and toileting, little to no physical, mental, and dental health care, substandard nutrition and lack of a consistent food supply, and exposure to physical assault and victimization. Very little is understood about the impact of disability on the sheltered homeless population's ability to stay safe in and maintain temporary or permanent supported housing. For example, cognitive problems resulting from head injury and chronic substance use may increase the risk of fire hazards in communal kitchens. Physical disabilities resulting from orthopedic injury and systemic organ disease may place them at risk for falls when rising from the toilet or getting in and out of tub. Visual perceptual problems and low vision resulting from diabetic neuropathy or stroke can heighten fall risk by decreasing their ability to see items on the floor, recognize changes in surface level, um, and identify wet or slippery surfaces. Unfortunately, the shelter system rarely identifies the problem of premature aging and the impact it may have on housing placement. Dr. Gutman and OT students conducted a study examining the safety risk of 25 formerly homeless adults then residing in temporary supported housing and sought to better understand the impact of their chronic health conditions on their home safety. The participants had a mean age of 58, had severe and debilitating health conditions. Their physical, cognitive, and mental health problems significantly interfered with their ability to safely function in supported housing apartments and engage in desired daily life activities such as self care, meal prep, and home management. Most supported housing environments lacked essential home safety modifications and equipment such as shower and toilet grab bars, non skid flooring, and ramps, and participants reported high rates of falls, near falls, and emergency department visits. In the following year, Dr. Gutman and other OT students implemented a home safety modification program with a small group of 11 sheltered homeless adults residing in temporary housing who were identified as prematurely aged or chronically ill. Participants had experienced one or more falls in the previous year and sought to determine whether they could reduce falls, near falls, ED visits, and hospitalizations in this group. At the end of the year, participants had experienced statistically significant reductions in falls, near falls, ED visits, and hospitalizations compared with the previous year. So the environmental modifications are listed here on this slide. Training encompassed instruction in and opportunities to practice safety techniques such as getting in and out of a tub, using a shower bench and handheld shower head, and rising from the bed, toilet, and couch. At the end of the year, participants had experienced statistically significant reductions in falls, near falls, ED visits, and hospitalizations compared with the previous year. So, shelter life is stressful, and homeless adults in temporary housing have a unique set of stressors that can exacerbate mental illness. Although shelters typically provide 3 meals a day, a bed, and medical psych care, shelter life is often harsh and residents may be exposed to violence, drug use, and theft. Stress also frequently emerges from conflict with roommates and other residents, insufficient food and medication, lack of transportation, and fear of becoming homeless again. Many shelters are located in areas characterized by crime and drug use that can trigger resident relapse after periods of abstinence. Many homeless adults are estranged from their families and have no or highly dysfunctional support systems. People who are chronically homeless typically have post traumatic stress disorder, resulting from a chronic lack of basic resources. Many are also severely malnourished and sleep deprived and have imbalances in neurochemical hormones needed to maintain basic mental health functions. High stress levels that go untreated or are inadequately treated over time are highly correlated with decompensation, ED visits, and hospitalization. Although the shelter system typically provides psych care and medication, such services usually do not address the stressors commonly experienced in the shelter system, and most shelters do not teach reduction strategies that residents can use over time in once housed. So to address this gap in service provision, Dr. Gutman and other OT students developed and assessed a stress management program using a two-group control design with 24 participants. The intervention consisted of a 6-week psychoeducation group with 6 modules. And the modules are listed here, and they are anger management and conflict negotiation, diet and nutrition, exercise, leisure and recreation, sleep hygiene, a wellness recovery action plan, and meditation and breathing techniques. So all modules were manualized with written scripts, PowerPoint slides, and an appendix of practice activities and facilitator fidelity checklists. Each session ended with a 20-minute meditation in which the facilitator provided guided instruction on breathing and visualization techniques against background music. At post-intervention, they found statistically significant differences with large effect sizes between intervention and control group scores on stress scales. Dr. Gutman made a call to serve the homeless population. In it, she implores students who read this lecture to consider what she said and to step up to this challenge. We need to use our education, our intelligence, and our heart to help thousands of sheltered adults and children in our country attain better lives. Use the skills that we are fortunate enough to learn through our OT education to make a difference in the lives of those among us who are the most marginalized by our society. Dr. Gutman also challenges faculty members to consider developing student service learning opportunities in local cities with people who have been left out of the American dream and forgotten by our government officials. We should not stand by witnessing this occupational injustice perpetuated by unresponsive politicians, federal officials who would like to sweep this population under the rug, and a society that wants to maintain closed eyes. Be the ones who see the need for help and rise to serve. This body of work demonstrates that OT practitioners can substantially improve the lives of adults with mental illness who have experienced homelessness, not only by providing services to this population, but also by joining primary care teams to identify how cognitive, musculoskeletal, sensory motor, visual perceptual, and psychosocial disorders affect daily life skills these clients need to leave the shelter system and transition to and maintain supported housing. Though there is not many reimbursement to service provision in this population, Dr. Gutman made 2 points on why OT practitioners should serve this population. First, as good citizens who care about our fellow human beings, OT practitioners should use our unique skill set to help this population. They so desperately need help, and our skill set is entirely congruent with their specific constellation of needs. It has become clear from events in the past several years that in our society, homelessness is part of the larger problem of systemic racism. The majority of homeless people in our country are Black, African American, and or Hispanic. As OT practitioners, we should use our skills and knowledge to help solve this societal problem. As a profession, we need to advocate for occupational therapy's role with populations beyond those we are currently serving. We should not forget that the founders of the profession intended. Secondly, occupational therapy services to be provided in the community with ill and marginalized populations needing help. Our profession's history is replete with the practitioners who worked with impoverished and socially marginalized groups to better their physical and mental health and to help them integrate into American society and social roles. And here are our references, and thank you for watching our lecture.